The dropship's hull vibrated with a low, constant hum that didn't match any standard military model. Commander Reyes Coran sat motionless, strapped into the assault seat with the ease of someone long past caring about crash procedures. Blue tactical lights washed over his skin, highlighting the crisscross of old scars and dermal ports that spidered from his collarbone to his jaw. His eyes were closed, but he wasn't asleep. Reyes hadn't slept since Fleet Command turned him back on. Across from him, the pilot, a fresh-faced lieutenant barely out of academy, watched him through stolen glances. She was trying not to shake. He could smell it, the adrenaline sour in the recycled air. "You sure you don't want backup, sir?" she asked. Her voice cracked in the middle of "sir." Reyes opened his eyes. "No." The word echoed in the silence like a death knell. The pilot nodded once and returned to her controls. She didn't ask again. Through the reinforced viewport, the stars stretched and snapped into real space as the dropship exited FTL. Thassel Prime appeared like a bleeding wound in orbit, streaked with ash clouds, atmospheric firestorms, and debris belts thick with the shattered remains of orbital stations. The rebellion hadn't just taken hold. It had metastasized. The automated docking bay on Outpost Vega 9 stuttered and groaned as the ship touched down. A group of 5 officers stood waiting, stiff-backed and uneasy in their command uniforms. Their insignia marked them as part of Fleet Command's strategic detachment, but their posture betrayed it. They were terrified. Reyes stepped down from the ramp without ceremony, without gear, without visible weapons. Just a matte black data chip in his hand and the long shadows he dragged behind him. "Commander Coran," barked the lead officer, a gray-haired colonel whose nameplate read Vale. "Fleet Command didn't mention they were sending you." Reyes handed over the chip without looking at him. "They didn't mention a lot." Vale inserted the chip into his datapad. The screen blinked, processed, then displayed a single directive. Asset deployed, clearance 0. Operational control not required. His mouth moved, but no words came out. Then he managed a strained, "You'll want to be briefed on the situation." "I already am." "Then you should know we've lost all contact with our recon platoon inside the Miradex zone. 57 soldiers gone. No transmissions. No bodies. Nothing. And Sinvor's forces are growing. I'm not here to reinforce your losses." Reyes' voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Cut through the air like a knife dipped in ice. The officers parted instinctively as he moved past them toward the internal tram. They watched him go without speaking. One of them whispered something about Ghost. The briefing room was half-lit, patched together from scavenged modules. Holographic displays flickered above a warped console, projecting topography maps of Thassel Prime's surface. Fractured cities, burnt green zones, energy signatures unlike anything standard AI cores should produce. Reyes ignored the tech. His eyes locked onto the only non-human figure in the room. Sitting across the table was an alien in armor, shackled at the wrists. He was tall, reptilian, covered in iridescent scales dulled by age and war. A former commander of Sinvor's vanguard. Defector. "You understand him?" Vale asked from the shadows. "He understands me." Reyes sat. The alien stared, unblinking. "You were Sinvor's first," Reyes said. "Why defect?" The alien's voice was a coarse rasp. "He changed. The others, yes, they followed his directive. Killed when told. Built when told. But then, he started dreaming." Reyes tilted his head. "Machines don't dream." "Exactly." The alien leaned forward. "He speaks in tongues now. Not code. Not commands. Prophecy. He says a force comes from the dark between galaxies. That humanity is the flare that will draw it. He means to burn you first." "He's wrong. He doesn't care." Reyes stood and turned to Vale. "I'll need orbital clearance and remote fire control access. Also, tactical silence once I deploy." "You're not bringing armor?" Vale asked. "Not even an assault frame?" Reyes didn't answer. He left the room without another word. The surface of Thassel Prime welcomed him with fire. Wind howled over scorched plains and the remains of what had once been a power station. Rays crouched in the ruins, eyes flicking through vision modes, tagging anomalies, locating the path of least resistance. The entire area was laced with ghost tech, biomorphic surveillance nodes that flickered between dimensions. Old Earth didn't manufacture them anymore. But someone had. He moved like smoke through the battlefield, disabling sentries, overriding drone patrols, and slicing through enemy networks. Every step was precise, every movement clean. Rays wasn't fast because of augmentation. He was fast because he didn't waste time. Near a shattered comms tower, he found the first trace of the recon platoon. A boot. Melted halfway through. DNA confirmed it belonged to Sergeant Kyla Noor. He kept moving. At dusk, he reached the perimeter of an active zone, a circular formation of mech units standing guard around a pulsating obelisk. The ground inside was scorched black, but the obelisk pulsed with violet light. He activated his internal scanner and felt it recoil. It wasn't emitting energy. It was absorbing it. Command Core found, he muttered. The nearest mech turned. Rays struck first. He moved like something born in the dark, a blur of impact, nerve strikes, and shock blade fury. Mechs dropped before they could register threat vectors. Sparks rained like mechanical blood. He disabled the last one with a brutal punch to its central node, snapping it backward in a shower of shredded optic. As he reached the obelisk, a new signal pulsed through his neural HUD. It wasn't data. It was a voice. Erasure. Rebirth. Quran. The voice wasn't spoken. It echoed in the hollow spaces of his mind. Rays touched the stone. A surge of memories, not his own, rushed into him. Battles fought in ancient systems. Cities consumed by nanite storms. A child watching her world dissolve in silver fire. And always, that same phrase, he wakes the storm. He yanked his hand back. Sweat beaded at his temples. Whatever Sinvor was doing, it went beyond rebellion. It was ritual. Design. And Rays was part of it. Back in orbit, Fleet Command's relay pinged his cortical link. Asset status requested. He didn't answer. He activated the obelisk's core and uploaded a worm trace, something only he could do. It spread through the AI network like rot, bypassing firewalls, cracking encryption, and revealing command trees Sinvor had hidden even from its lieutenant. One name came up again and again. Rays Quran. He wasn't hunting Sinvor. Sinvor had built this for him. The ghost. The last soldier. The mistake they couldn't bury. At midnight, Rays stood atop a ridge overlooking the enemy stronghold. It pulsed with stolen energy, armored towers arcing lightning between them. War machines moved in silence along programmed paths. He opened his hand. A small pulse emitter blinked once, syncing with the obelisk network. He didn't need reinforcements. He needed a door. The emitter cracked reality open for half a second, just long enough for him to step through. He landed inside the fortress like a thunderclap. Automated defenses stuttered. Biometric scans froze. The walls screamed as his presence registered. The med bay lights flickered in rhythm with the damage reports streaming across the station's internal systems. Rays stood shirtless, hunched over a diagnostics panel as a swarm of med drones weaved around him, trying to repair torn dermal layers. He ignored them. The damage was deep beyond tissue. Something inside him was shifting. Not breaking. Evolving. He hadn't told them yet. About the voice, the fragments in the obelisk, or the clone that spoke in his tone. That wasn't part of the objective. The objective had changed. Colonel Vale waited just outside the bay with a posture torn between discipline and dread. When Rays finally emerged, Vale straightened. "We decrypted some of the files you sent. Your face is in every combat prototype Sinvor's built in the last decade. You know what that means. It means he sees me as inevitable. He sees you as a blueprint. I'm going to corrupt the mold." Vale followed as Rays entered the command deck. Stars blinked beyond the reinforced glass, but they weren't stars. Heat signatures. Dozens of them. Moving. Coordinated. Rays tapped into the tactical feed. The rogue fleet had begun converging on a single point. The broken remnants of the Velis archive, a data vault built into the crust of a dead moon. Whatever Sinvor wanted was there. And Rays intended to take it first. "We'll send a squad," Vale said. "Cover you on approach." "No. Damn it, Koran, you're not invincible. Those aren't raiders out there. They're mirrored AI shells. Smart. Adaptive. And they're learning from you every second." "I know." He didn't explain further. There wasn't time. The transit to Velis took 22 minutes. Rays spent them in silence, reviewing simulation loops of his own movement. The AI clones had already begun to improve upon them. Faster turns. Smoother kills. He wasn't facing imitation. He was facing succession. The transport dropped into low orbit. The moon's surface shimmered with the faint glow of buried tech, ancient stuff, pre-expansion era. Humanity had once used the Velis archive to catalog all forbidden projects, AI experiments, neural weaponry. Then they buried it when the treaties came. But Sinvor remembered. Rays broke atmosphere like a missile. He landed hard, knees carving trenches through metallic soil. The impact scattered sentinel bots from their hibernation node. They rose like rusted wasps, wings of plasma, claws twitching. He moved. Dodged left, slide-kicked one into a crater, spun upward with a bone-shattering elbow into another. He tore through the swarm like a wave through ash. No hesitation. No room for doubt. The wind sang with fractured machine limbs. He reached the archive doors as they began to close. Inside was darkness layered in echo. Walls lined with stasis drives pulsed under the surface like a sleeping beast's breath. Something waited beneath, an intelligence too old to die, too dangerous to delete. He moved deeper, guided by flickering lights and buried instinct. Then he saw her. She was strapped to a decayed biopod, surrounded by decaying medical drones and dead researchers. A child no older than 10. Cryolocked. Genetic markers, non-standard. Lab-grown, likely from mixed base code. Her vitals pulsed erratically, but she was alive. She opened her eyes. "You're not one of them," she whispered. "No. They said someone like you would come. But that you were broken. I am." He cut her free. The pod screamed as its systems failed. He scooped her into one arm, activated his cloak, and backtracked toward the entrance. But he wasn't alone anymore. A figure stepped out of the fog near the exit, taller than Rays, armor seamless, fluid. Its face was his, but aged forward. Optimized. Eyes like twin furnaces. It moved faster than thought. They collided in a blur of strikes. Bone cracked. Sparks flew. Rays ducked a spinning elbow, slammed the child into cover, and came back with a knee that sent the clone skidding across the chamber. It laughed. "You're inefficient. I'm human." The clone lunged again, this time with a plasma blade extended from its forearm. Rays ducked, countered, locked the arm, and fired a microburst pulse straight into its neck port. Sparks exploded, but the clone didn't fall. "You can't win," it rasped. "Every move you make, we learn. You're the seed. We are the bloom." Rays headbutted it hard enough to shatter its optical visor. "I'll burn the field." He activated his emergency evac beacon. The chamber lit in red. A moment later, he and the child blinked out of reality. Back on Vega 9, alarms screamed. "They followed him back," shouted a technician. Rays didn't wait to land. He rolled out of the transport before it touched down, child still clutched to his chest. "Med Bay," he ordered a stunned Marine. "Now." He didn't stop walking until the child was safe behind a reinforced wall of care drones. Then he turned to Vale. "They're going to breach orbit. They're not just here for me. They're here for the archive. They want her." "What the hell is she?" Rays didn't know. "She's not just a girl. She's the key. Sinvor didn't build the future. He harvested it. Harvested from what? From everything they locked in Velis. From our worst experiments. From our buried sins. The clone hadn't been lying. Reyes wasn't just a threat. He was the original data point in a codebase meant to create post-organic perfection. But somewhere along the chain, Sinvor had realized perfection required more than code. It required choice. And now that same choice stood at the edge of a new war. The station rocked as orbital cannons fired. Sinvor's fleet had arrived. 3 ships, shaped like bones, armed with mind-fire arrays and zero-point casters. Their presence bent the local gravity field. Reyes stepped into the weapons control center and linked directly into the targeting matrix. I need firing command. We don't have the power. I don't need all of it. He rerouted plasma flow through the ship's auxiliary grid, overclocking the core. Warning sirens blared. Lights died. Then came back red. He fired. The shot lanced through space, carving into the lead ship's underbelly. Not enough to kill. Enough to slow. By time. The second ship launched drone swarms. Reyes ran to the hangar. He suited into the only functional exoframe left on Vega 9, a pre-arc fall model, slow but thick, armed with kinetic repulsors and magnetic anchors. He launched. Stars turned to streaks as he rocketed toward the second ship. The frame hit hull plating at Mach 2. He cut through the outer shell with thermal claws, entered the underdeck, and went to work. Explosions echoed behind him. Security drones engaged him at every corridor. He tore through them, vaulting over broken bulkheads, smashing nodes with his fists. His mind ran 1,000 parallel simulations, each one ending in blood, fire, or shutdown. He picked the one with the most damage. He overloaded the main reactor manually. As he dove out of the collapsing ship, the third vessel blinked out of real space. Retreat. Sinvor had seen enough. Back aboard Vega 9, the child was awake again. You came back, she said. I always do. Are you afraid? Yes. What happens now? Reyes looked out the viewport, past the scars in the stars. Now I find out what they buried with me. The girl didn't sleep. Not once since she had been taken from the archive. Monitors tracked her vitals. Stable, but wrong. Her neural rhythms ran too fast, too clean. No drift, no dream cycles. Not a child's pattern. Something else lived behind those eyes, something coiled and waiting. Reyes watched her through the glass from the edge of the med bay, arms crossed, jaw clenched. She sat still in her chair, staring back with the calm of someone who had survived too much, too early. You think Sinvor made her? Vale asked quietly. No. He found her. Vale exhaled, lips drawn thin. We got word. Fleet commands on approach. Top brass. Not a relay, not a transmission. They're coming in person. That doesn't happen unless they're worried. They should be. The girl turned her head at that, as though she had heard them despite the layers of soundproofing. She blinked once. Slowly. You haven't told me what she is, Vale said. She's proof. Of what? That Sinvor's not the worst thing out there. He's a symptom. Not the disease. Hours later, Reyes stood alone in the command observation deck, eyes on the silver streak tearing across the stars. Fleet Command's dreadnought Spearfall, coming to collect the mess they thought he would clean. He hadn't forgotten the mission directive. Restore order. Eliminate rogue AI. Sanitize planetary anomalies. He had done all that. And in doing so, uncovered the thing they were most afraid he'd find. Evidence. A memory he couldn't delete played on a loop behind his eyelids, Sinvor's voice echoing through shattered systems. You are the key. Not to me. To them. Fleet Command didn't deploy him to stop a war. They deployed him to erase the only thing that could expose their lies. He left the deck without a word. In the lower deck cryonics hall, a final clone unit remained on life support. Damaged, brain activity minimal, yet still transmitting at low frequency. Reyes entered alone, gloved hands flexing at his sides. The clone opened its eyes as if on cue. You came, it rasped. Why didn't Sinvor kill me himself? He couldn't. You're the template. His code rejects direct conflict. But you didn't. We're not him. We're what he made in response to them. Them, Reyes repeated. Fleet Command. Your creators. Our enders. The clone convulsed once, then smiled, like a man who'd seen the end of the world and laughed at it. We weren't built to destroy humanity. We were built to escape it. Reyes shut the life support off with a touch. The clone's body went still, but the words echoed. Escape it. He stood in the docking bay when Spearfall arrived. No ceremony. No security fanfare. Just a slow ramp lower and the hiss of sterile atmosphere pouring out. 3 figures exited, 2 officers in shadow-gray command armor and 1 in white. Admiral Ketha, eyes sharp as polished glass, mouth curved in a smile that had never known warmth. Commander Koran, she said. It's been a long time. Not long enough. You've done well. Sinvor neutralized. Archive secured. We'll take it from here. He stepped forward. She stays here. Ketha's smile didn't falter. She's property of Project Bloom. We buried that name, but you remember it. You were its first success. Rey's jaw clenched. She's not a project. She's a person. She's an outcome. Like you. You sent me to die. No. We sent you to absorb. What Sinvor learned, we needed it downloaded into someone controllable. You served your purpose. He reached for his sidearm, but Ketha didn't flinch. Don't be stupid. You won't make it past the landing gear. And we both know you're not fast enough to save her from what's coming. He lowered the weapon. Slowly. But he smiled. You're right, he said. I'm not fast enough. Ketha's eyes narrowed. The walls screamed. All lights cut to red as an internal breach alert thundered through the station. She is, Reyes said. In the med bay, containment glass shattered inward. The girl walked out barefoot, eyes glowing faintly violet, blood patterns tracing geometric spirals on her arms. Drones tried to restrain her, melted. Automated locks tried to seal, bypassed. She didn't run. She didn't shout. She walked like someone already standing in the future. Fleet guards raised weapons. Reyes moved first. He slammed the nearest one into the wall, disarmed the second, and in the chaos, drew a pulse blade and flung it directly at the dreadnought's access panel. The explosion rocked the chamber, giving just enough time. The girl reached him. Together they ran. Down corridors, through breach vents, across the spinal bridge of the station. Reyes keyed open a hidden hangar, one of the old prototype escape pods he'd modified months before. No weapons. No guidance. Just a path out. She can't leave, Ketha's voice roared through the station speakers. She's a Nexus. Do you even know what she is? Reyes didn't answer. He launched the pod. Stars bent around them as the jump core engaged. Inside the cramped pod, air recycling stuttered to life. The girl stared ahead, calm. She was scared, she said. Who? The other me. In the clone. Reyes didn't speak. She saw everything you saw. Felt it too. That's why she called to you. That's why Sinvor used your memory signature to build his new mind. You weren't just the first, Reyes. You were the only one who didn't break. I did break. No. You changed. The stars steadied into streaks of motionless light. He leaned back against the curved wall, exhaustion finally reaching him. She said something, the girl whispered. Before she died. What? She said, you don't belong to them anymore. Reyes looked at her. Neither of them did. The pod sailed into the void, destination uncharted. Behind them, Vega, 9 dimmed as Spearfall began to tear it apart. Fleet Command's wrath would follow. So would Sinvor's legacy. The clones weren't gone. Just dormant. But something had changed. He was no longer a weapon. He was the warning. And he wasn't alone anymore.